Good day, everyone. My topic is all about intellectual property rights on the development and use of digital materials. When we say intellectual property rights, it is our right to protect our own work that came from to our own mind or our own hard work. And also digital materials, it's all about the image. It involves images, books that came from to different website or apps. And now let's define intellectual property right. Intellectual property protection is important and fostering innovation. Why? Because without protection of ideas class, individuals will not be able to enjoy the full benefit of their inventions and they would not be compensated for their creations. That's why naay mahitabo ng innovation because it protected by the intellectual property right. Intellectual property, according to World Intellectual Property Organization or WIFO, it refers to creations of the mind, such as inventions like literary and artistic works, designs, and symbol names and images used in commerce. Next, an intellectual property right is a right held by a person or by a company to have exclusive rights over this. So as I said earlier, intellectual property rights is a right by held a person. So as I said earlier, kitong mga inventions such as literary and artistic works, designs, and symbols, names, and images, ang pwede ra maka gamit ato is kitong natag-iya ato or kung baga siya ang gahimo ato nga inventions. So in our country, we have the Intellectual Property Office of the Philippines or IFOPHIL, which administers and implements state policies in relation to intellectual property. This office was created through Republic Act 8293. This act class defines intellectual property to include copyright, so later on we will discuss what is copyright and related rights like trademarks and service marks, geographic indications, industrial designs, patents, layout designs, or topographies of integrated circuits, and protections of undisclosed information. And next, let's define copyright. Copyright refers to the legal right given to the owner of the original work or intellectual property. When we say copyright class, for example, we copy a paragraph that came from the unknown websites and we paste it in our work. So that's the example of copyright class. Nanguha tag any kind of kanang materials or any kind of, like for example kitong paragraph nanguha ta ato without the permission of the owner. Nakagets ra mo class? So let's proceed. These works are original intellectual creations in the literary and artistic domain protected from the moment of their creation, which include the following. Number 1, books, pamphlets, articles, and other writings. Second, periodicals and newspapers. Third, lectures, sermons, addresses, dissertation prepared for oral delivery, whether or not reduced in writing or other material forms. And those are the examples of intellectual creations. The internet is a very rich source of this materials class, and we should be careful in using them. This works class nga akong discussed earlier are protected by the sole fact of their creations, irrespective of their form or mode of creation, as well as of their content, quality, and purpose. Now that copy and paste are very accessible commands in our different technology class, such as computer toolbars, we should try not to violate the copyright laws. Otherwise, we could be accused of copyright infringement. And now let's define copyright infringement. It is the use of works without permission where the copyright holder has the exclusive right to reproduce, distribute, display, or perform the protected work or to make derivative works. Proper citation should be used when including them in our output. So I said earlier, class, copyright infringement is the use of works without permission, no? Kito ng work sa laing tao nga atong kuhaon nga without permission sa ilaha. So, if gamiton ganin ato na siya, class, or we natay words or even paragraph na gamiton, we should cite kung asan agikan siya nga kanang website or kana nga output. Nakatry na taan na even sa research, di ba? Nakaside jud dito kung asan agikan nga ikuha na to nga paragraph or even gi paraphrase na to na siya, guys. It's the same na siya. It copyright infringement gihapon na siya, class. Below are the guidelines on online use of copyright materials by Smaldino, Lothar, and Russell, 2012. Number 1, contrary to popular opinion, all material on the internet is copyrighted unless stated otherwise. It is copyrighted even if it does not display the copyright symbol. Second, an email is an original work fixed in a tangible medium of expression that is covered by copyright. Hence, it's recommended that you should not forward any email without permission in consideration of both Copyright and Privacy Act. Third, downloading an article from a newspaper, websites, making copies and distributing them to your students prior to a class discussion on the topic is permissible following the current photocopying guidelines, which permits making multiple copies for classroom use. Last, you cannot post students' essays, poems, or other works on the school websites unless you have permission of the students and their parents or guardians. Those guidelines that I mentioned earlier, class, if mulabag mo ato, ma-copyright infringement mo. And the field naman, class, determine at least 3 popular cases of copyright infringements in the Philippines. And in research, copyright infringement is punishable by law. If you're doing your research, class, you should cite any kanang kung asa na siya gikan nga resource or any kanang asa na siya gikan nga materials nga imuhang gi-get from the websites. Next, copyright infringement versus plagiarism. So, muna natog discuss ang copyright infringement. Now, let's define plagiarism. Another violation on intellectual property is plagiarism, class. Although plagiarism and copyright infringement are related ideas, these two are different. Plagiarism, according to plagiarism urge, is an act of fraud. It involves both stealing someone else's work and lying about it afterward. In other words, class, plagiarism refers to copying the work of another and claiming it as one's ideas without proper attribution, while copyright infringement, class, is copying one's work without obtaining permission. Okay? In this sense, copyright infringement is a violation of the right of the copyright holder, while plagiarism, class, is a violation of the right of the author. And what is the difference between the two, class? So here, copyright infringement, class, is a legal violation, while plagiarism, class, is an ethical violation. That is the bit different between the two. Without further ado, let's elaborate the following as plagiarism, class. First is turning someone else's work as your own. Second, copying words or ideas from someone else without giving credit. Third, those are the examples of plagiarism marks. Fourth, giving incorrect information about the source of a quotations. And last, changing words but copying the sentence structure of a source without giving credit. And those are the example of plagiarism, class.